Hello again to everyone out there, to all you seekers, you lovers and leaders, movers and makers, explorers and earth shakers, to you students and teachers, artists and storytellers, listeners and critical thinkers, light warriors and workers, star seeds and earth seeds, to our intergalactic friends who may be listening to this from beyond the stars, and to our homely fellow humans who are chilling out here on the crust with the rest of us. This is Skull Babylon, and you are about to listen to the July 21st episode of Paradigm Shift Radio, the new interactive show to assist in the evolution of consciousness. This episode went for 90 minutes and we only had one caller join us live on air, but there was still lots of great conversation happening on air and in the live chat. Some of the topics covered were our regular Paradigm Shift community news, then we talked about ayahuasca, and our guest caller Casper from thinkforyourself.us to talk about some science side of explaining things like quantum entanglement and non-locality, our habitual group mid-show meditation, some more talk about meditation, and we finished off the show by talking about cultivating male sexual energy. This show went by fast, but there's still plenty of exciting shows lined up for the future, so be sure to join us and take part in the future episodes of Paradigm Shift Radio. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Paradigm Shift Radio to stay in the loop. In the meantime, tell your friends, sit back, relax, take some notes, and enjoy the show.
So hello out there in the blog talkosphere. Welcome once again to another exciting edition of Paradigm Shift Radio. I'm one of your hosts tonight, Michael Brazel, and we also have our other host on, Skull Babylon. Are you there?
I am. I think we're good to go, right?
Yeah, thankfully, technology seems to be working with us tonight. So, unless we transcend or ascend or something.
Hey, you always got to consider all those possibilities. You never know. Could be in the midst of some sort of alien invasion mid-show, but we'll bear through. We'll be there to cover the reports.
You never know what could happen in the next few minutes on this show. We are, for those of you who may not be aware, we are going through a lot of really crazy astrological things. So Mercury's in retrograde, Uranus is in retrograde, we have solar flares, the universe is shaking us up like a little snow globe. So lots of craziness is happening right now. So what's going on in London these days? Is anything coming up on the radar for Paradigm Shift London?
You know what? I'll just give you a little bit of an insight in terms of our last meeting that we just had on Friday, because every Friday we have our regular Paradigm Shift community meetings, which are just our consciousness camp meetings, we call them, and we have them in the yoga studio, the Moksha Yoga Studio. And the meeting that we had on Friday went really well. We had about 11 people in total come out, and there was a couple new faces out there. And one of the guys, he found out about it. He just sort of stumbled across it through the spirit science. He found out about it through there. So that's awesome that, for him, he's just browsing the internet and then randomly comes across the one of the videos that I did, the Shift Is You video, and then it's whoa, these guys are in my city. And then he was really, really excited to be there. So that was awesome for him to come out. So shout out to Mike if he's listening, which he may be. So shout out to Mike and welcome to part of the physical aspect of the Paradigm Shift movement. So
sweet. So just lots of stuff. Here in DC, we finally got our Paradigm Shift meetup group up and running. I posted the show links on there. So some folks from DC, the DC area, may be joining us tonight to listen in. We're actually going to be kicking off our actual face-to-face meetups here starting early next month. I'm in the process now of relaunching all of my web presence, and we're going to be actually creating a festival and doing a consciousness camp as part of the festival experience. So lots of things are on the horizon here in DC. So if you're in the DC metro area, be ready, be aware. We're getting ready to launch a lot of really neat things, and we're going to do some things too where we try to do some interactive experiences with maybe using Skype to bring in some leaders from various communities, maybe have a larger conversation on some of these topics, and maybe go more specific with what we can do beyond just talking about the topics, but actually effecting action steps within our communities to create some positive change.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I think for those of you who may be joining us for the first time here on Paradigm Shift Radio, or maybe you've listened to some of the past episodes, which are always available as MP3 downloads for your listening pleasure, just to give you a bit of a recap of what Paradigm Shift is. Paradigm Shift in itself is a term used to describe the communities that are basically working as individual cells of a bigger movement, and that movement is just to like create conversation and to raise consciousness. So Paradigm Shift London was like the first community that I was a part of that actually got like the foundation sort of established, and through our sort of trial and error, we proved that it can happen. This whole idea that if you're looking to meet like-minded people in your area, basically if you build it, they will come. And it being the online Facebook group or the physical meetings, setting up those in your area, and the people who are interested in it will find their way out to it. So we always want to encourage you guys to, if you're interested in starting your own Paradigm Shift Facebook group, you can always get some tips. And we have the new Paradigm Shift Central Facebook group, which is facebook.com/Paradigm Shift Central. Check that out, because that's got a little document that I wrote up that just sort of gives in some little tips and tricks, and as well as some graphics to help you get your own Paradigm Shift community started. Because that's basically what we want to see more of. We would love for there to theoretically be like a Paradigm Shift community in every single city across North America and even Europe or anywhere in the world. And it doesn't even have to be called Paradigm Shift, because I know some of you have probably been having similar meetings with some of your friends, and maybe you don't even call them anything, but maybe you want to start something and you want to make it your own. By all means, you don't have to use the term Paradigm Shift. That's just something that we're sort of using in a lot of ways, because it creates a sense of solidarity. So it does add strength and to the collective movement when you think that, like, okay, we're not alone. We're a part of something bigger here, and it just helps motivate the people involved. But again, if anyone's listening to this and you're interested in starting a Paradigm Shift community, or even if you start a Paradigm Shift community of your own, that's something that we want to hear about on tonight's show. So if you've had a similar sort of setup been going on in your community, feel free to call into the show tonight. And Michael, do you want to just give our listeners a little run-through and tutorial on how they can do that?
Absolutely.
Covering the basics.
Yeah, so we're jumping here. The number to call in tonight is 347-326-9263. You can also Skype in. There's a little button on the show page. If you hit Skype, it'll bring you into the queue. If you don't push 1, or if you don't, I don't know what Skype has you do, but it gives you a chance to actually come into the queue to ask questions and to interact. So just remember, when you come on, be concise with the things you want to talk about. Try to keep it topical. We will bring up a couple topics tonight that we kind of generate the discussion. Like these conversations typically go, we never know where things are going to end up. So we may start off on one topic and end up on something completely different. This is an organic experience with connecting into consciousness. So we kind of just let the conversation unfold itself. For those of you who typically come in from other avenues to this channel, we're not doing psychic readings tonight. So we ask that you try to keep the conversation to the topic, so that way we can kind of unfold the experience and kind of keep it driven into that space of really exploring the different avenues. If you have questions or comments you want to address to myself or Skull in the chat, send it to us in a private message. That way it stays in the chat. The chat room, as always, here is very interactive. We love it that you all talk to each other. But if you ask us a question in the chat, it's hard for us to scroll back up and find the question. So if you have a question that may be more topic-driven, ask us through a private message. Also, moving forward, not every show we have is going to have a guest on. The shows that don't have a guest on, we're going to try to keep to 90 minutes, so that way we, can just kind of keep the conversation a little more concise. When a guest is on, of course, there's going to be more questions. The discussion goes a little bit deeper. So tonight is a topical discussion. And other nights moving forward, we want to have you tell us what you want to talk about. This isn't just myself and Skull, and I know, we can pull in topics, but we want to know what you want to talk about. So email us. You can email me directly at michael@michaelbrazel.com, or post your topic ideas here in the chat or in a private message, and we'll collect those, and we'll take them and put them in a hat, and actually we'll just kind of do random topics. Unless something globally is happening that may need some discussion, we'll just do random topics. And I think it'll be a neat way to just have each show be this organic unfolding versus something that we're trying to push. So Be sure that you're interacting on the Facebook groups as well. I know that Skull does a really good job of, during the show, monitoring the Facebook groups. We'll monitor the chat, and then we'll just go from there. So I think, too, anyone who is starting these kind of conversations within their communities, allowing, that connection to fold over into the show. And if you don't have one yet, use the show as an avenue and an outlet. Some of the topics we talk about on the show are really fascinating. You can take those back to your communities. Even if it's you and one other friend having these discussions, allow yourself to have the discussion. Go a little deeper. Question the world around you and just have fun while you're doing it. This is an exciting experience, and it's an experiment in bringing people together. So, shout outs to everyone out there who's giving me shout outs in the chat room. Zachary Reynolds, shout out to Zach. He's been listening to the show now for a couple episodes, but he's actually started a couple Facebook groups because of listening to the show that are geared towards doing global meditations and things. So Zach, congrats to you out there for taking on that work. So
cool. So yeah, in the meantime, guys, shout out to everyone in the chat. And the show, the ball has not officially gotten like totally rolling yet, so there's still a little bit of time for you to invite your friends. So let them know. Post on your Facebook right now. Again, this is something that I really want to emphasize, that as much as I can push this show from where I am, it helps a lot more when you guys are like pushing it a little bit further, because my reach only extends so far, basically, which is the whole idea behind this whole community effort, is that this show is going to become bigger by you helping it become bigger. That means telling your friends about it and inviting them to not only listen, but also eventually take part as the call-in. So guys, in the meantime, if you have Twitter, use Twitter. Just send out the link for the actual blogtalkradio.com website, which you are in right now if you're listening to the show. Just post that on your Facebook page, let them know, and also feel free to direct them to the Facebook for Paradigm Shift Radio, which is facebook.com/ParadigmShiftRadio, because we're definitely, to give you guys an idea of numbers, okay, so on episode 3, that was our Teal as our guest on that one, and we had about 400 live listeners for that show. And then for the one after that with Free Spirit, it was floating around like 200, a bit over that. And so yeah, just to give you guys an idea of numbers, that's sort of where we're sitting at. And then if you look at some like the video like view counts on the Facebook and stuff right now, and I'll tell you one thing. This is really peculiar. This is a good thing. And I shouldn't say it should worry me, but we haven't gotten a single down thumb on any of the YouTube posts that I've put up relating to this show. So I mean, that's a good thing. But I'm waiting for that first downvote. So if somebody wants to go downvote one of the videos on YouTube, by all means, I won't take it personally. I think it's good to sort of not fall into that illusion that we're doing everything perfectly, because the whole idea of this is that we want to get it better and we want your guys' feedback. So again, that's where we want you to bring ideas to the show and help get it out there more, because this is something that it is an experiment. We can't say exactly what it's going to be, and what it is going to be is what we help create it to be as a collective. So you guys are a big part of the show, and I don't want you guys to ever forget that. So big shout out to everyone who is listening right now.
And if that isn't enough for you all to go out and post this show everywhere, Skull Babylon just celebrated her birthday. So what better present to give one of your hosts who's dedicating his time to come on and share this experience with you, then go out, Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook, go graffiti it somewhere, do something with it, tell everyone about it, bring your family into it, have the discussion. Like if you're hosting a group, what better way to connect everyone in? But you can even have a meeting and have the show running while you're having the meeting,
Yeah, like I could see if I wasn't sitting here hosting the show, like I would probably like be in a garage right now hanging out with some friends listening to this show. So if anyone wants to get into that habit, like that'd be just a cool thing. If on a Saturday night you and some friends can get into the habit of just hanging out and listening to the show, like that'd be awesome. So let us know if you're doing that. And just another thing, guys, in terms of helping this show grow, you may have saw that we are accepting donations. This is just something that is I'm trying to accumulate a donation account that's not just going to be about Paradigm Shift Radio, but will be about helping the Paradigm Shift communities, not just London one, but helping all the ones grow in some way or another. So right now we're just in the process of letting that money just sort of sit there as it accumulates. But I do have plans down the road to do a Kickstarter campaign, and just to give you guys an idea of some of the things that I would want to be able to use the money for, in addition to just help with the production effort that goes into it, because that does take a lot of time from the production end of it. But that's something I went to school for, and it's something I enjoy, and I'm glad I'm being able to actually use my skill set for something that's making a difference in the world. But some of the other ideas, so if we could get like even like a couple $1,000 or something like that, or I mean, a Kickstarter money, you could probably like raise like 20,000, like not impossibly or whatever. But one of the ideas that I had, if we had a bunch of money, one of the things that I would want to do is actually to spend it on button making machines, and then be able to sell those back to the community at like a dirt cheap price. Because if you've seen the video, The Shift Is You, then you've seen like some of the buttons that I've been handing out, the consciousness raising buttons, and the button machine that I was using was my friend's, but I know to buy it online costs like around like $400 plus there's like
right.
flies and everything like that. So imagine this. Imagine we like raise a bunch of money, and then that money goes into like, for one thing among other things, it goes into like buying button machines and then giving those button machines back to you guys in the community so that you can start using them to start the acceleration process of getting the word out within your own physical community. So I think that's a pretty cool idea. And if you guys have other ideas on ways that you would like to see the funds like creatively used in addition to like poster and printing costs and stuff like that. Again, we want your feedback. Like how can we make things accelerate even more? Like our goal here is, and when I say our goal, I don't just mean this radio show. And when I sort of mean like as bearers of the light, as seekers, as light warriors and workers, whatever you want to think of yourself as. Our goal, from what I see, in addition to creating like strength and confidence within our own lives, is to find and reach out to other people within your community, be it online or physical, and just let them know that they're not alone, or just to be able to connect and help build that tribe. Like that's really what these next few months are about. They're really about like helping things accelerate as much as possible so that we can like really just get a strong foundation for come 2013 sort of thing, right? So this is all about building the tribe right now, guys. So help us do that.
So, so those of you out there, if you also have skill sets that you could donate, if you're out there and you're making PDFs and you're making posters, you're making images, if you're good at those kinds of things, let us know, because we have no problem, bringing people in to help with that stuff. It takes some of the load off of some of the people who are doing a lot of the work, and it's part of, it brings you into the community. And if you're doing things out there that are really effective within your communities to attract people in, if things are working, share those, because it's a collective. And if you have a great idea, we want to share that. Maybe at some point we can collect all that information into something that's downloadable, so that if you're new to it or you're trying to get something started, you'll have this great resource you can pull from. Anything you're thinking of, stickers, if you have T-shirts, if things that you're doing within your community, let us know, because we have no idea sharing that. This isn't something that's driven solely by individuals. It's driven by a group. We just crossed over 1 hour, 11 minutes, 11 seconds. So I thought I'd pass that out to everybody.
Oh my God, it just happened, yeah. But in addition to that, I just wanted to add again, like buttons, stickers, T-shirts, posters, anything like that, anything that's going to visually get it out. But another thing, and this is sort of down the road, but to give you an idea of what we could be moving towards, again, like if there's some philanthropist out there who wants to help in this whole like shift process, then, like hold on, let me back up 2 seconds. If you're interested in donating, the donate button, go to paradigmshiftlondon.com, and there's a donate button on the side of the site, or go to paradigmshiftlondon.com/donate, and you can use that, just because we don't have the Kickstarter thing set up yet, but the funds are going to go all towards the same place as it starts building up. I'm trying to type and talk at the same time. I need to practice my multitasking skills. But what I was going to say, guys, so as another idea of what we could actually do with the funds, imagine this. This is an idea that I want to move towards. Creating, having and encouraging the creation of other media teams within other paradigm shift groups across the globe. So if you've seen my work, you see I sort of have like this reporter take on talking about things that we're doing and everything. I want to see that happen with other communities. I want other communities to like have their own media team, quote unquote. So if we had funds, what this could help with would be like purchasing laptops to to give to you guys so that you guys can like have something to do the editing on. So again, like this is something that if we were to raise like $200,000, do you know how many laptops we could buy with that? And like again, I have no problem just like giving those away like dirt cheap, because that would be the whole idea, and that's going to help accelerate things. So again, just giving you guys a bit of an idea of where we could be down the road as we work together towards manifesting some of that space cash, because space cash is neither good nor bad. It's a tool, and it all depends on how you choose to use it. So.
And then if you have suggestions for guests that you want to hear on the show, if you're out there hearing folks that are making waves within the community, if they're out there doing the work, let us know and we'll send an invite out, because we are always looking to have the shows be as interactive and interesting as possible. So if there's folks that you all want us to bring onto the show, let us know, and we can try to make that happen as well. So just lots of stuff happening. So
yeah, and just one, like again, like there's so much to talk about, but just the one more idea, because I just want to tie this whole thing together. Another thing that I want to do in terms of projects and bringing this all together, guys, I want to create sort of like a Paradigm Shift TV YouTube station where we can have like a central hub in addition to Paradigm Shift London Central. Paradigm Shift Central, facebook.com/Paradigm Shift Central. So to have like a Paradigm Shift TV YouTube channel where other people sharing their videos from other parts of the world can have it sort of in one circulated place where we can all sort of go there and see our hosted content and be able to share it and have it in one spot. And it doesn't even have to be like reporting type videos. It can just be a video of you as an individual sharing some of your thoughts. So there's a lot of people doing this, and like shout out to Starseed Spacefront, who's in the chat right now. You guys may have seen one of her videos. It's featured off the end of the last video that I did about ayahuasca. But again, like her videos are just like her talking about her ayahuasca experience. So I mean, if you have videos like that, if you have videos like anything, we want to share it. And the idea for this, and I haven't created the YouTube channel yet, but it's not actually going to be called Paradigm Shift Television, but the term that I thought up of is Paradigm Shift Metavision. So META. So the idea that like it would be more than just the television side of media content. So it would be a place where we would have like the Paradigm Shift Radio sort of linked through, as well as even like other sorts of media. So I mean, not limiting ourselves just to the concept of TV, the idea of metavision. Like we're in the process of evolving how we use media. Like this is like straight up just like the future of what we need to do. We need to utilize the tools that we have in front of us and find out how we can reach out to more people, and just to encourage open-mindedness. Again, you're not trying to push any sort of like individual ideals on people. Like this isn't about like the spirituality movement. Like don't even try like calling it that. Don't even try labeling it that, because it's really just about encouraging people to start thinking for themselves, and the start of that could just be encouraging them to like turn off their TVs, because a lot of people like that's like the mindset that they're stuck in, right? So how do we help people move away from all the crap that they're being fed from the mainstream? Like how, like this is like counterculture sort of stuff, but also working within the culture to like reach to the people who are still within it. It's like hacking within the matrix. You gotta think of it. So you gotta really be intelligent about how you're doing stuff and creative. So it's going to challenge you, but it's also like super fun once you start getting out there and once you start connecting with those people in your community, because it will happen. Like there's no way that it won't happen. Like just get out there, and like that law of attraction will start like bringing the people together within your community. And it's exciting stuff, guys. So that's why I'm really like passionate about encouraging it to happen.
And don't be afraid to share this stuff. Don't be afraid to go out there and to be part of the communities. Within your local area, start the conversation. If no one else is having these discussions, I know sometimes it can be hard in smaller areas to get things solidified, but we always stress that even if it's just you and one other person, have the discussion. Don't feel like you're alone. And we want the show to be a great outlet for you, but we also, one thing that I always try to stress is having tangible human experiences. So actually having physical exchanges with people. And remember on the show, too, it's okay to disagree. We're not always going to agree on things. And one of the things that we try to do here, and we've done with a few of the guests so far, is we try to take the conversation to both sides. So we're not here trying to push one side or the other on any issue. It's to look at every single aspect of every issue. And I think that's where it's important for us to question everything. I love playing devil's advocate within spirituality and, just within new thought, because there's so much stuff coming out. And if we don't question some of the things that are coming out, we put too much trust into what other people are saying, and then we feed into another form of giving power away. And the idea here is the more you question, you use discernment, you can take in what you want, leave on the shelf the stuff that doesn't sound so great, and then maybe go back and pick it up later and re-examine it. But this is, a great way for us to begin these conversations. And what a great place to do it. So remember to call in tonight if you want to join the conversation. 347-326-9263. 347-326-9263, number to call in. One thing we started last week with the last show was doing an intentional meditation as part of the overall experience. And I think that's something that really worked well, and I think it's something we're going to keep going, right, Skull?
Yeah, that's definitely something because we're trying to develop habit. And if you can make a habit and make it into something that's enjoyable to do, then that helps a lot. So it's good that we do have the community where we can do that together. So yeah, that's we'll do that at the top of the hour, I think, right?
Yeah, I think that's good. So that'll be so that way you'll know too if you ever download the shows and go back and re-listen to them, and you should, and then share the shows that have already been done. You can be part of that meditative experience again because that information gets imprinted onto the shows. So you can go back and re-experience and then add on to that. So, be sure that you're out there sharing the show. This show grows because of you all, and I really appreciate everyone I see a lot of crossovers. I get to be part of every show that comes on this channel. So a lot of you are coming over from the other shows, and thank you so much for your cross-generational support on the show. So you're coming in from these, multi-places. So get out there and share this in your communities. Have the discussions tangibly. Create experiences for yourself. And if there isn't one, start one. Don't be afraid to be the person to start the wave moving. Movements are called movements because they move. And if you're not engaged in the conversation, then you're kind of feeding into that place of not being part of the movement. Move. Get the stuff moving from you and out into the world around you.
Everything big begins small. Remember that, guys. So just a quick metaphor, like the one thing that I was thinking of when I was starting the whole Paradigm Shift London, because for me, I started it within my college. So if you have a college, or if you have a college even coming up in September, that would be a good thing that I would suggest, like do it at college or university or high schools or anything. But the metaphor that I think, when you're growing a plant, you don't put a plant into a big pot to begin with. You take a plant and you put it in a small pot, and then as the plant begins to grow, then you move it into a bigger pot. So for Paradigm Shift London, it started off as like Paradigm Shift Fanshawe College, and then from there, like after the foundations were in place, I took it and moved it out of the college, and then it became Paradigm Shift London. But you guys do what feels right for you. Like I said, use tactics, use whatever it takes, use buttons, t-shirts, get the word out there, because now is the time. Dun, dun, dun. But anyways, all right, I think we should get the ball rolling on some interesting discussion here.
Yeah, I think this is the time now, and we got. And the thing I like about this show too is that we have other hosts from other shows that come in, and it's great to see the chat room so active. And I think this is probably one of the most active chat rooms on any of the shows that I host, and it's just beautiful to see people talking. So remember, talk in the show, but we also want you to interact with the topic. Otherwise, it's just myself and Skull talking back and forth. So be sure that you call in 347-326-9263. If you don't want to call in, if you're hesitant to get on the air, post your topic, your discussion in the private messages so we can see if there's something specific that you want to direct towards the conversation, and then we can bring you into the conversation that way. So this is, an unfolding experiment for us too, to try to create a forum. We can only bring so many people on the air at a time. So, chime in if this is a topic that we talk about that interests you. Where do you want to start tonight? Because we have a couple of things that we've been talking about, Skull.
Right.
You have a video that you just did.
Yeah, okay. So there's a lot of directions that we could go into right now. Let's just take a second, guys, in the chat. Just type in, like, what's something that's, like, right at the top of your head. What's something that you want to see happen on the show tonight? And then we'll sort of, like, get, like, a list of where we might take this. But what Michael's referring to, one thing that we can start off with talking about is the recent video that I did from my recent trip to Toronto, which was about a one-man stage show. And it was entitled Medicine, and it was about a man named TJ Daw and his experience with ayahuasca. So ayahuasca is something that has come up on the show bit by bit in, like in the past 2 episodes of the show, it has come up, or 3 episodes, actually.
Right.
I think it's come up on every episode of the show at this point. So it's definitely something of interest because there's such a visceral experience that correlates to it that is in many ways like so different from what we're used to hearing about, and it's not something that we're really seeing on mainstream news. You know, you hear all this stuff, the stories about like bath salts and stuff like that, and these crazy stories about like how people are like smoking weed and then eating people's face off and stuff. But you're not hearing news reports about ayahuasca and like the general healing that's happening behind it. So that could be one thing that if someone who is in the chat has had an experience with ayahuasca, maybe this is something that we could take the conversation towards in the beginning of the show. Maybe if someone would like to come in and talk to us on air about your experiences or just even your input on ayahuasca, we totally welcome you to do that. But for those who may be unfamiliar with what ayahuasca is, and correct me if I'm saying this wrong, but ayahuasca is a native to the Amazon, but when it's made into a brew, a tea, it's not just a single vine. There are other leaves that are used with it. And there's a few different ways of making it, depending on who you ask. But then it's brewed into a tea for like 6 or 8 hours, and from there it's traditionally used as part of a healing ceremony by the natives. And then through that process, you're experiencing a very internal reflection within yourself of some. It's different for everyone. It's very subjective. But one of the things that really interests me is the approach that the natives have. Is this idea that the ayahuasca, like they don't just see it as a plant, like they see it as the spirit of the plant, like the mother ayahuasca, the grandmother ayahuasca, and then you're interacting with the consciousness of that plant. So you have to go into the ceremony with like humbleness, with gratitude, and just be like, all right, Mother Ayahuasca, like lead me through this, show me how to do this, and the shamans help guide you through it. And just to give you an idea of how psychedelic, so to speak, like this experience is, because a lot of what's happening is like chemically within the brain, there's like the release of like the dimethyltryptamine, and that's something that we can expand into the topic of conversation with. But when you're on the ayahuasca, like you're experiencing aspects of reality that are sort of naturally there, but like the veil of illusion is pulled back. And what I find interesting is that through the music that the shamans will use, the Icaros that is commonly used, you're using sound and intention to traverse these internal spaces within yourself, and it's something that is incredibly like mystical and enlightening and so otherworldly and compared to our regular day experiences. But the constant thing that has been reported from it is its ability for it to help people deal with a lot of personal issues in their own life. So things including like depression and just negative lifestyles and like negative habits and things that are damaging to themselves, and it helps them really reflect on this, because in some ways from the experiences I've heard, like it's almost a chance for like your entire life to like play back right before your eyes, sort of thing. So there's a lot of different experiences with ayahuasca. And again, like if you heard us mention earlier, our friend Starseed Space Friend, she's posting in the chat room right now. She's got a video about her experience with ayahuasca and how it changed her. And I know she is going to be on the show at some point, not necessarily today. That's up to her. She's got a meditation thing going on in Toronto tomorrow, which she can post about in the chat right now. So anybody in Toronto, go to Starseed Space Friend's meditation event tomorrow. So that's another thing that I just want to promote. But again, on the topic of ayahuasca, it's what do you guys think? Like, what do you think, Michael? What's your take on ayahuasca?
So when Skull told me we were doing a show on ayahuasca, I thought he meant we were doing it on ayahuasca. So this will get interesting in a few minutes. No, just joking.
Just kick it in.
Hold on, fifth dimension. Here we go. But so let's expand this out, because I hear a lot of people in the room expanding this out to going even further. So if you've had experiences with other psychoactive drugs, if you've had experiences where you're engaging things like salvia divinorum or psilocybin, and what I see, there's a difference in some of the more natural compounds versus the like MDMA or ecstasy and LSD. So when we're engaging the more natural substances, there is the connection to spirit that is often connected. So even with like salvia divinorum, there is an association with spirits that are attached to how you ingest it and then how you go into the actual experience. And I really like listening to Ram Dass, and he, if you ever listen to any of his talks from the early 70s, he really talks about when we engage these types of activities, we want to be sure that we're going with purpose and that we're actually bringing back information that we can take action on. Because the idea is, if we break through this illusion, we're just actually stepping into another illusion. Like Edgar Allan Poe's poem, A Dream Within a Dream, and we're stepping into another level of that, a multi-layered reality. So the idea is, and one of the things he brings up in his talks is that we want to be sure that when we're going with purpose, we're going with direction. And our karma is not to stay in those spaces. Our karma is to bring back that knowledge and to filter it out into the communities. And you're seeing folks like our last guest who we had on, Free Spirit, who uses those experiences to do some of the dimensional shifting, the dimensional outreaching. So if you've had those experiences, not just with ayahuasca, but if you've had those experiences with other compounds, or to take it even deeper, if you've had those experiences just with meditation, let us know. And if you have a process that you use in the meditation aspect that allows you to have those transcendental experiences without the use of substance, talk about that also, because I think that's an avenue that sometimes doesn't get as much attention, because when you ingest something, a substance that will allow you to directly break through this dimension into those other realms, sometimes it may seem a little bit more impossible for those who don't engage a deep meditation practice to go into those places. I know people who have had Kundalini experiences that would far exceed anything that they've had, on some of these different compounds. So if you've had those experiences, or if you've had, Kundalini awakenings, those types of things can be very similar to having ingested something like ayahuasca or using something like DMT. We actually do have a question that came in from the chat here. Do these plants or mediums for achieving these states of consciousness take away from the oneness with the self? Isn't it a different experience to do it naturally without drugs? That kind of goes into what I was just talking about. I don't know if it takes away. I think in some ways it can add to the experience. Because, when we talk about meditation, some people, when you say the word meditation, their eyes glaze over. And there's multiple ways to go into places of meditation. I don't think they necessarily take away from going into places of consciousness. In the movie DMT, The Spirit Molecule, one of the things I really liked was that they had suggested using it for terminal patients, so that they could, if you had an understanding of what happens beyond this reality, it doesn't make death so scary. And that was a really heavy thing to sit with, because I never thought of it in that way. I've always thought about it, we could use it spiritually to transcend, to open up dimensionally, to see beyond this realm. But it was really interesting to think of it to be used as something that could help us to free from the fear of death. And I thought that was a really interesting concept that we could attach to something like, DMT or ayahuasca or any of these other compounds.
I agree. I think it's definitely, for a lot of people, it puts them back into this awareness of being more than just themselves. And there's a good video of our good friend Jim Carrey, and he talks about an experience without actually saying what he did. He's just sort of talking in sort of an ambiguous sort of sense. But he's talking about just this idea of that he was no longer just himself. He was the universe, and he understood that as an individual he was a fragment of that entire perspective. And this is this whole idea of oneness that people can be opened up to through the experiences of ayahuasca, because a lot of times people are really interested in these topics. They're like, oh, how do I get my Kundalini activated? How do I experience what the mystics are talking about? How do I get there? How do I get there? How do I get there? And a lot of times they're just reading stuff out of the book, or they're hearing other experiences, whereas something like ayahuasca will provide you personally, should you choose to, and it's totally a choice, and we're not advocating it, but should you choose to, it will provide you with a visceral experience that this reality is not just what we're commonly used to with the filters on, and in a lot of ways it's sort of coming into this understanding that we as consciousness, we sort of put ourselves in this scenario where we intentionally forgot our connection to source, so to speak. We intentionally forgot that this reality was so much more than what it actually is. It's so much more beautiful than what it is. It actually is sacred geometry and light unfolding upon itself, and there's no such thing as empty space, and time time is not linear. Like, our perception of it is linear, but time is not linear in itself, and it opens you up to this, and you experience it. So then, like, when you come out of that, you have this this motivation. You're just like, all right, it's no longer just a theory. Like, I know what's sort of like at stake here. Like, I know what game I'm playing, and then it helps motivate you in terms of going forward and trying to get other people to open up to this idea, because in a lot of ways, this whole oneness thing does open you up to this idea of, like, serving other people, because suddenly they're like, okay, like, I understand I have to do what I need to do, but at the same time, recognizing, like, the oneness within everybody else, that part of the fragment of consciousness that they are, and how can you help them, come into this state themselves? Like, how can you help them, like, remember? Maybe they already do remember, and you're sharing things, and it's just like, it really just sort of, like, brings this whole life experience to a whole nother state of perspective and motivation and determination, in the sense of, like, what we are, what our role is here, and what needs to be done. Because a lot of it, and I've said this before, a lot of what we're going through, in terms of, like, consciousness, there's we have the ability to tap into like, higher parts of information. That not everything that we know is not simply stored within our brain. Like, our brain is more like a hub that taps into the information that's, like, in higher states of consciousness, if you want to even think about it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But in that sense, like, a lot of what we're doing right now, we're not necessarily, like, learning all this stuff that's new, but a lot of it is, like, remembering stuff that we already know, and these are things like fractals of within reality, and how to manifest intent, and the idea of, like, the laws of attraction, and some of these things. Like, there are, like, fundamental aspects of, like, that of reality that, like, will happen, whether or not, like, you could deny it. I mean, you could deny the idea that gravity is
mm-hmm.
real, but it's still going to happen. So when you understand that in the same way that gravity happens, there's, like, other aspects of this reality that happen in similar ways, such as, like, the X number of laws, and one of them being the one that people are familiar with is, like, the law of attraction. And then you get, like, the ideas of, like, karma and stuff, and that, and Eastern philosophies, like, they understood some of these things, and they would explain them in their own ways, in a lot of their teachings and writings. So,
yeah, I think too, just for those of you out there, because this is a heavy topic, and if you're coming into this late, we are talking about ayahuasca and DMT and these various other substances you can use to transcend. Just use caution when you're out there. Even with Kundalini, a lot of people assume that Kundalini is this, just byproduct of yoga or byproduct of, meditation. It can be very disruptive. So be sure that you're engaging these things safely. Be sure that you're moving into these places, with thought. Allow yourself to experiment. And I've done things, I've used, different substances to try to engage it. And I'm someone who has to test drive it in outside in reality. So, I'm that guy that walks around kind of looking like, well, I already look like I'm not part of reality anyway. So, but I like
big
to go,
old flower life on your stamp on your face.
So I kind of stand out anyway, so I can get away with these kinds of things, But, when I've tried these different avenues of connection, and it's interesting to see the things that you see. And I've seen where, last time I engaged in some of these experiences, I could see people stepping into different places within their own reality, looking in the mirror and seeing a reflection that could potentially be another transdimensional self. So the idea is to go into it, and if you're doing these things, journal the experience, allow yourself to be part of your unfolding, and don't just have the experience just to have it. That's one of the things that Ram Dass talks about in things like, the flower child movement, that we had these really wonderful experiences, and a lot of us got to go out and be part of this non-tactile reality. But then we come back, and then we don't really do anything with it, and then we try to keep going back to seeing the dancing bunnies and really cool stuff. But there's not much that we can do with that here in this reality. And we're in such a time now where the world is seeming to be more responsive to chaos. And if we can bring back knowledge that can actually help shift humanity, even at the smallest level within your own self, then we can start to affect change with some of these things that we're doing. Because I think that's a missing step a lot of times within the spiritual community, is we want to have these very deep spiritual experiences, but we're not taking the action step. And I think someone had said that and I think that paradigm shift video where you talk about starting the community school, I think one of the persons said that he was listening to like InfoWars or something, and it's great to have all this knowledge, but we're not doing anything with the knowledge that, it's great to know the Illuminati is there, but what are we doing with that information and that knowledge? What are then the action steps? So go and have these wonderful, beautiful experiences, but come back and do something with that experience.
Yeah, I got a good quote that relates to that. Do you want me to share it right now?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, all right. This is Terrence McKenna. So some of you know Terrence McKenna, and he was a teacher ahead of his time in a lot of ways, and he was a psychonaut. He was interested in exploring these realms of our consciousness that were so oftentimes that are in many ways kept hidden from us, these experiences. So okay, so I almost want to try doing a Terrence McKenna impersonation while reading this, but if you can somehow imagine what he sounds like as I'm reading this, okay, hold on, let me just, okay. But anyways, the quote is, he says, "You are an explorer and you represent our species, and the greatest good that you can do is bring back a new idea, because our world is endangered by the absence of good ideas. Our world is in crisis because of the absence of consciousness." So he's referring to things like psychedelic experiences there, because again, if you're going into something like this, obviously in a lot of ways, it may be about individual healing, but if you're just sort of maybe move to a little bit beyond that point, don't just take it purely as a recreational, I'm just doing it for the exoticness of it. No, go into it and with the intention of bringing something back that you can bring into your society, into your culture, into the conversation. And that's something that with even what we're doing here today, and this is something that came up in our paradigm shift meeting yesterday on Friday, and it was this whole idea of all right, we're sitting in here, we're talking, and a lot of this stuff that we're doing is, a lot of it is almost like mental masturbation, so to speak. So what's really important is what we do once we get home. What do we leave with us? What do we take with us once we leave this room? And what do we take home? What do we start doing once we get home? So that's something that, for all of our listeners, it's good that you're listening to us, but this is just one step in a multi-step process. We want you guys to go out there and just take something home with you, even though you're probably already at home right now. But metaphorically speaking, of course, right? Bring something that you can have, something that you can take out in your community, and that's something that, for me personally, I like to always emphasize the practicalness of talking about a lot of stuff. So a lot of people are interested in they're how do I activate my Kundalini? They ask that question. So it's okay, so how do we go about asking? How do we go about approaching that? What are some steps? What are some practical things that we can do within our life? And these things involve habits such as diet, meditation, and we can get into that, because I think that is an important topic. But right now, guys, unless Michael has something in particular, I was just going to say, is there anybody who's in the chat who would like to get in on live on the show with us? Because we are looking for callers right now, guys, and we're about 40. Yeah, we're a good ways into the show, and we haven't had a caller in yet. So. Yeah,
so it can be anything from, you can talk about Kundalini. We can, even if you're coming on with a question, and then we can take it into a conversation. So anything like Kundalini, it can be talking about some of the different experiences that you may encounter while using ayahuasca, DMT, or otherwise. And another thing I want to also just point out real quick before we have a couple folks just chimed in here, or one person, but number to call in 347-326-9263, or you can also Skype in. Remember though, because on the other side of this, don't get so caught up in having these experiences through substance. Also, go out and experience the world you're in. This is a beautiful place, despite all the craziness that is going on around us, despite all the chaos that is still part of this third dimensional experience. Go out and experience your world. Go on a hike, get out and experience nature, get away from Facebook and your computers and your TVs, and actually go out into the world and see how beautiful it is. The geometry that's in flowers. There's so much around you. Yeah, be part of the experience.
I was earlier today, I was meditating out in the forest. As I was saying, I was sort of just typing on Facebook, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go hang out in the forest. But instead of just putting I'm hanging out in the forest, I put hanging out in/with the forest, because I'm like the forest isn't just a place. It's actually it's me, right? It is this extension. So I'm just going in there and I'm hanging out with it, not opposed to just in it. So there's a lot of stuff we can talk about that, because I mean, even just like from my experience today with like I usually do open-eyed meditation, and just a quick thing before, because I do think we have a caller who's waiting in queue right now, and what I was going to say though is that I've been doing a lot of like open-eyed meditation. So for me, I can get into the states where like I'm like fairly soon within my meditation, like my vision, like being open-eyed vision, like the veil within reality, like is starting to dissolve, and stuff just like looks a lot different, and like I feel a lot different, and it's just like a really like bliss type sort of experience. But it's very like it's something like really, really precious if you can tap into that, and that's still something that I'm familiarizing myself with. But again, we'll talk more about that at another time. But right now, do we got that caller lined up in the queue?
Yeah, I'll bring him here in 1 second. But
All right,
one thing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so the one thing to remember coming on, just we'll keep you as part of the experience as long as we can. But if other callers start calling in, we'll make the shift. If you have questions or comments, private message them to us so we can also bring you into the conversation. And an easy way to do this open-eyed is to just tattoo the flower of life on your forehead. It's like getting direct UV, you know.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Michael does have a little tattoo on his face. But man, that's awesome. That's awesome that you have that, because I know. Oh, okay. Well, we'll talk about this later. But I just imagine anytime you walk onto a subway and just the looks that people get at you. But you've posted about this idea that like you have this tattoo of the flower life on your face, and then when you step onto something like a bus or anywhere out in public, there's like that moment where everybody on that train like looks at you, and they're all connected to like that same instant within reality, but they're all like thinking a different thing. So like you get some people that are just like, what the frick?
Exactly.
And then you get some people who are just like, whoa, like, I know what that is. Like, I want to talk to that guy, right? So it's like a billboard for the Paradigm Shift DC group on your face, which is...
That might be my next tattoo, Paradigm Shift DC. All right, let's go ahead and bring this caller on. So, area code 817, your first name, where are you calling from?
This is Casper, and I'm calling from Texas.
Casper from Texas. What's going on, Casper?
This is my buddy Casper. So.
Yeah, what's up, man?
Show,
good.
Man.
It's good to talk to you in person, kind of.
yeah. This is very this is us using the tools that we got, right? So I mean, this is like the virtual age that we're in. But that's awesome,
well,
man.
What I wanted to kind of ask you guys about was just a lot to do with the science behind a lot of this spirituality stuff, and how in recent years there's been a lot of relation between the sciences and what we at one time thought was fairy tale, and just something you had to have faith in, a lot of the quantum physics and stuff like that have started to support all these ideas.
Mm-hmm.
I was just kind of wondering what you guys thought about that, or if you know a lot about that or anything.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. I was just going to say the first thing that comes for me is like the idea of like non-locality, right? Because that's like a scientific sort of like term for explaining, and this is something that's brought up in like What the Bleep Do We Know, which for a lot of people, if they've been interested in this stuff for a while, like that would have been like one of like the groundbreaking films that you saw at the time when it came out, that along with like Waking Life. But one of the things that they brought up in that is this idea of like when you have like correct me if I'm explaining this slightly incorrectly, but like when you have like two atoms or two particles that are like connected within a system, you can take them and you can separate them like on different sides of the world, and then as soon as you do a change to one, like there's like an instantaneous like change or reaction to that same atom like on the other side of the world that completely from a lot of common understandings of like science and physics and stuff, like defies this idea that like something has to physically travel from one side of the world to the other in order for this change to sort of happen. But within the realms of like within the understanding of non-locality, it's this idea that like the space that is between them is not like actually something that has to be traversed, but like it's almost like this like internal wormhole that exists within everything, so that you can do something in one place and it instantaneously affects something on the other side of the planet. And this even ties in with the idea of like distance energy healing and stuff too. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's actually called quantum entanglement, and things like that, and quantum what is it called? Quantum teleportation, where you have small particles that literally disappear from our dimension and go somewhere, we don't know where, and then they reappear in another spot. All that stuff is like, to me it's mind-blowing. It's what first started me on this whole awakening thing, is because I've always been a huge skeptic and stuff like that, and I guess that's just kind of what I needed to see in order to be like, wow, this is real. I can't, it's almost, at first it was almost unfathomable. Like, I can't believe this is actually happening in, our society. Another question I guess I had for you guys is, do you think that science will be able to explain everything, or do you think that there's a limit to where science will be able to take us on this physical plane with, those evidences and stuff like that? Do you think there's a limit to that, or do you think science can take us all the way?
I think there is a limit. I don't think everything's going to be explainable, and I think it's nice to have things that aren't explained all the way. And one of my friends in the pagan community, I think, says it well, and he says that science is magic that's been proven, and magic is science that's yet to be proven. So there's lots of stuff out there that's constantly unfolding. We just had the whole God particle discussion, and we're seeing things, even with distance healing, that we're proving that Reiki, in particular, being the most studied, has direct benefit. And I'll have to find the study, but recently they did a pretty big study spanning several years on how Reiki can actually take people into greater states of health. But I think there's a beauty in having things not be explained away. There's something about the mystery of the experience that allows us to go into the questioning, to have these discussions. And I think there's a power in having the mystery. And Ken Wilber, in his book of journals, mentions that, and I think that's what keeps us evolving, and I don't think that everything is ever all going to be explained. And you have these really great thinkers like Michio Kaku and these theoretical physicists who are really out there with thought and seeing how things can really unfold, but I think there's a beauty in not knowing, and even within the human body there's so much that isn't understood yet, like with the brain and how consciousness works, and having that separation between science and the question, I think, is important. I think it keeps us moving forward, but I think there will always be questions, but I think there's a power in having the question, and I think being able to ask those questions without having an answer is what really allows us to formulate our own direction. Some of the danger I see sometimes with science trying to explain everything away is it explains everything away, and that puts you on a singularity of a path that it almost becomes a religion in a way, because this is the way.
A lot of times when people, when they think they've discovered the answer, they stop looking.
Right.
And I don't think this whole thing that is something you'll ever, at least in its human physical form, that you will, like you said, ever really figure out. It's never going to be put into a small little pretty box with a bow on top. Right. And I think you're also very, very right when you say that that's how we pretty much evolve. I mean, if we had everything handed to us, on a little note, and these are all the answers, we would never look further, and we would never evolve further.
Yeah, that wouldn't be any fun.
And like you see, even like people like James Randi and the skeptics groups, and I think it's important to question things, but I don't think it's, we have absolutists in every direction, and I've met evangelical Wiccans and, people you wouldn't think would be more closed off, but they're within all aspects. When we get an absolute answer, we close ourselves off to any other possible reality, and I think that's where a lot of the discord comes within society and with how we interact with one another. Is it's okay to disagree, but when we become so absolutist that nothing else can expand beyond those ideas, we close ourselves off. And it's important to be able to expand and not limit ourselves, but not limit society and how we interact as well.
Gotcha. Well, I appreciate it, guys. It was good to talk to you.
Oh, absolutely, Casper.
Yeah, thanks, Casper. And Casper, I know you're doing your own project to help help encourage the open-mindedness. So if you just want to tell people the website that you got. Yeah,
it's thinkforyourself.us, and I have a Facebook page. You can add me on Facebook, Casper Morgan, and it's all informational, nonprofit. Just trying to get the word out there about this whole thing, and it also touches on the sciences behind it because I'm real interested in that stuff. So yeah, thinkforyourself.us. Check it out.
Awesome.
Thanks, Casper.
All right, man.
Cool.
Yeah, so go out there, go ahead and follow Casper's stuff. Folks, if you have things that you're doing, events, stuff, post it in the group. I mean, this is a sharing spot too. So this isn't, we're not trying to push one idea or one group more than anybody else. But if you have an idea or have something you want to do, post it, put it out there, get it out there, and if you're changing the world, let us know about it so we can support that change. Do you want to do the meditation?
I think we're at that point. It's
We're
coming to an end of another Psychic Saturday, so I think let's stick with our schedule, do our meditation. But I do have some stuff that I really want to talk about once we come out of it. So
yeah, there's a couple more really interesting things going on in the world.
Yeah.
So meditation. Right. So introduce this 852 hertz.
There's really not too much to say about it. This is for those who listened last week. We've been playing solfeggio harmonics during our meditation, and the harmonic frequencies. My buddy would be able to explain this better because he's more of the music guy. But they're specific frequencies that resonate with vibrational aspects of ourselves. So the idea that sound is not just something external or everything. The idea that everything is vibration. So I mean, things like sound are things that we can use to help change us, to actually in some ways change our DNA, if you want to think about that. And even the idea of mantras, so your ohms and your saw and your raw, those things, those are tools. The reason why the mystics use mantras, they use the ohm, is because they're using it as a tool. Think about the idea that everything is frequency. So how do you affect that frequency? By creating another frequency that hooks in with the harmonics of yourself and the reality around you. So that's something, again, we'll explain later, but what we're doing now, what hertz is this one? This is
852.
852. Okay, so should we set an intent here in terms of what we're doing for the meditation?
Yeah, let's just throw around a couple things here. One thing that I want to do with this is, I don't know if any of you have been following the news, but there's a big tragedy happened in Colorado. But there's a lot of stuff going on. So let's just, one thing I want to set an intention for is just sending healing out to anyone out there who needs healing tonight. Let's send that healing vibration out through our heart centers to anyone who might need it.
Mm-hmm. And so with this, just breathing is an important thing in meditation. And a lot of people will say, I don't know how to meditate, so I don't know where to start, right? So, Michael, what would be your suggestions practically for people who maybe this, theoretically say they're a listener, and this is their first time meditating. Let's walk through this, but keep it simple in the same sense.
So the simple thing here is just close your eyes and listen to the song, right? That's one of the easiest ways for you to connect into this. There's ways to connect into meditation. If you're a tactile meditator, the music is going to just be something that takes you right in. You can rub your hands together while you listen to the music. Look around the room. If you're a visual meditator, find something in the room to focus your gaze on, whether it be a candle or whether it be something on the wall. Allow yourself just to be present in the harmonics. The beautiful thing about an audio meditation is it takes you into the moment, but allow yourself to close your eyes and just focus on your breath. And I'll lead us into it, and I'll kick off the frequency here, and we'll just let it roll. So everyone, go ahead and center in on that breath. Start breathing, inhaling and exhaling through the nose. Allow yourself to drop a little deeper within the body. Each breath taking you through the different layers of yourself. Each inhalation bringing in community. Each exhalation creating space, allowing yourself to drop deep within, opening the heart center as we begin our meditation, sending out the intention of love and light to all those that we may meet within this human experience. slowly begin tuning back into your breath, allowing yourself to return gently to the room that you're in, continuing to send out love and light through your heart center to all those that may need it within this human experience and beyond, allowing yourself to return to the breath, creating space with each exhalation for everything that you may need within this human experience. So there we have it, sending out that peace vibration to the world, coming back in, just queued up Skull's mic, so you know, it's always a difference when you cue the mics, you never know what's gonna happen on the other end. But that's great. I think that's wonderful. I think that's a great thing for us to do
that's
every
a good habit.
show. And go out there and like listen to stuff. There's a really great group we had come visit our store called OmniPure, and their entire series of music is based on the solfeggio frequencies, and they talk about the solfeggio frequency specifically is something that allows us to access the 1111 Stargate, which is it's a whole nother like topic in itself. But I'll post a link to their stuff, and they talk about it in a lot of their blogs and stuff. So if you're interested in Stargates and music, go out there and engage that as a meditation, because it can be an easy way for you to do it if you haven't been able to do it before.
That was good, guys. And for those of you in the chat, just to let you know, went into the meditation, came out of it, and didn't see any new messages. So based on that means that the large majority of you theoretically were actually partaking in that meditation there. So thank you guys, because I think that's a nice moment that all of us can sort of share to sort of connect with this energy that we're all like taking part in right now. So I mean, even to sort of like be like, all right, I'm sitting here, and somewhere across the world there's like 50 or maybe 100 other people in this exact same moment with me and experiencing this. And I think that's just a very cool thing. And going back to this idea of what we were talking about with Casper, with the science and the quantum behind it, like the idea that like we are connected as well, like especially within that shared moment. So I think that's something where, for those of you who are starting to join us on a regular basis, you may find that meditation is going to change over a period of time. You may start to find getting new ways out of it. And who knows, like this could maybe we could practice doing a session where it's like a mass astral projection session or something like that. Like I know other shows have done that. A guy by the name of Reese Jones, he's done a project like that in the past. Some of you may know him, but yeah, I think that's thank you guys for taking part in that, and let us know in the chat, like how was it for you? Like I see some good comments already, just saying like, yeah, that was really fun, and like, or not even like not fun, that's not a quote, but yeah, that was really worthwhile and relaxing and stuff. So
it's good, and do it. And another thing that I like about this too, and I heard this in a David Icke interview recently, is if you even think about it, beyond just those of us who are listening, these airwaves are moving out into just everything. So everyone around you who's in the same space as you, and people between all of us, are all also getting hit by these frequencies, so it's a beautiful thing to just go into that space for a moment. And remember, if you have a hard time meditating, the thing that I give all of my clients is to start with one breath. One deep breath in, one deep breath out. If you can't focus on one single breath, you're not going to do an hour-long meditation. So you start with the singularity of a breath, and then give yourself permission to do 2 focused, intentional breaths. So when I say breathe in, connection, breathe out, space. So you can do something like that where it's an intentional thing. Breathe in, love. Breathe out, disconnection. So something that's intentional for at least one breath, and then go beyond that if you can. So, but make meditation something that's yours.
Yeah, like exactly what you just said. Make meditation something that's yours. There's no right or wrong way to do it. But I mean, once you start advancing on it, there are certain techniques that have been repeated in the past, and they are something that have been proven to give results. So it's good to do it your own way. It's good to have your own style, and this could mean like listening to music that you like. I mean, I've like yesterday I was meditating with my buddy, and we were listening to Tool, and like that was awesome. Like it was just like such the like Lateralis, like that was I want to listen to that song right now, just thinking about it. But in terms of like practicality, guys, like this is just a metaphor to help you understand and wrap things around your head in terms of your own meditation. One of the things with meditation is approach it in the sense of developing your focus. So say that is your goal. Your goal is to challenge yourself to see if you can focus on a single idea or construct or movement within your own body for X amount of time. And you'll notice that you're not going to be able to do it because the mind isn't where it is right now for the majority of us isn't like that. It tends to wander. So say you're focusing on your breath, or you're focusing on like a single point, or maybe even a flame that's in front of you. That's another thing that you could do. Have a flame in front of you and meditate on the flame and soften your vision. But then when your focus begins to wander, think of it this way. Think of it as if like our mind is like a small baby kitten. And you're trying to make that kitten walk in a straight line. But that kitten's going to tend to wander left to right. And as it does, you just gently push it back towards the center. So it's going to wander a little bit to the left, and you're going to start thinking these thoughts, but then you're just going to like gently push it back into that center of focus. So observe the kitten. Observe your mind. That's what meditation is. Observing, becoming familiar with your own mind, and that's something that it does take time, it does take commitment. So you may find that like you're like, you know, having a lot of trouble even with a 10-minute meditation. You're just like, okay, I'm thinking about the kitten now. I wonder what my friends are up to tonight. Should I go see that movie, or what are we doing? And then what was I? Oh, the kitten. Right. But I mean, eventually, the goal, and this may be something that you may find is difficult, but that's the idea. In the same way that like working out physically may be hard, right? You know, like you're trying to like bench press a certain amount of weight. Like it may be hard, but through that challenge, through that process, you're going to become better at it. And then the whole idea with this meditation thing is that it's not even just like within that one moment of meditation that you're developing like your awareness, but you're also like going to take that level of concentration and focus into your everyday life, and it's going to affect your decision making process and your ability to respond to the people around you in certain ways, and especially it's going to lead over into your dreaming practices and even your lucid dreaming practices for those who are interested. So if you can develop this focus, if you can observe the kitten and keep it focused to such a level that you're going to be that is good, like say there's like a certain level that you're trying to reach, and once you reach that level, you're going to be able to like have a lucid dream experiences within your dreams, and then when it happens, you're going to be able to be like, all right, okay, like I know I'm in a lucid dream, let's not overreact here, like let's maintain the focus and then like move through it, opposed to where a lot of people, they're like, oh my god, I'm lucid dreaming, this is crazy, and then they just like wake up, or they just like they don't have that focus, it only just slips through their fingers. So that's practically one of the benefits of meditation is something that, you know, like it's definitely worth your while. It does take a bit of commitment, and don't get attached to some of the things that you experience within it. I know a lot of people might have some sort of like moment where there's like, oh my god, like I saw like an angel, what does this mean? Like if that happens, just like, okay, observe it, but then like let it go and move on, because like there's lots more around the corner in a lot of ways. So yeah, that's meditation for you.
And just remember how important the breath is. It's the very first meditation you do when you come into life, and it's the very last one that you do when you leave. You know, so the breath is like so important for connecting in the meditation. So just focus on your breathing. If anything, it gives you a little bit of space. You know, meditation is powerful to do daily. Get into a daily habit of meditating. And I like to meditate randomly through the day. So even just little short meditations through the day just reconnect you and integrate your spiritual practice in throughout your day. So allow yourself to have that space to do it. And you know, if you're finding you're not feeling centered, you're not feeling grounded, that could be a really great way to start engaging spirituality, because it's easy. It's something you naturally are doing anyways. You're breathing. So just become intentional with some of the things you're naturally doing anyways. And breathing is already there. It's a mantra in itself, and you allow yourself to then begin some process that you can build on.
So is there, I think just sort of hopping along here, guys, are we going to, Michael, should we go for, are we going to make the show 90 minutes, or should we just do it an hour and just see what we can get in?
90 minutes is good right now. I think it depends on the topic.
How much time do we got left?
We have like 13 minutes.
Yeah, see, that's not a lot. Like, I think we could...
Oh, this is a 90-minute show. This is a 90-minute show.
Well, according to your thing on Blog Talk, there's 24 hours remaining, so...
24... Oh, that's like until the next show.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Right, so is it going to cut us off automatically at 13 minutes? Or are we going to have to stick to our guns and be concise here?
Yeah, totally concise.
Okay.
And that,
right.
so this is how we'll roll, folks. If you all like really engage, interact, and call in the show, that'll determine how long the show is. because we don't want it to just be us talking. We want it to be, and I love that you all are interacting with each other in the chats, but interact with the show as well by calling in the show and posting questions specifically on topic that we can bring up in conversation, because that way it keeps the conversation going, and then it's not just us talking. And we're going to try to get a lot of guests to come on as well, but for the shows we don't have guests, we want it to be a us and you experience. So we really want you all to interact by calling in the show so we can bring you on. Don't be afraid to come on the show. I mean, it's not, this isn't Oprah, so you don't have to freak out. We're not going to grill you and drill you. We might, never know what could happen, but we want come on the show and share your perspective. This is a great chance to do it. And if you haven't been able to do it before, and if you have something that may be a different topic that we can leap off onto, that can be something we can do as well. But we have 11 minutes to hit the ground running here, and once the show is set, I can't go and change the times. But we do about an hour and a half, and we'll get our methods of streamlining the show down so we can get to you all faster. But really remember, if you're not interacting with us, it's just going to be us talking. I know you guys love hearing us talk, but we would love to hear you talk.
We'll do it. Like, I swear to God, if no one ever comes in, we'll do it. But we want to hear from you guys, because again, like, this is practice. Like, this is all this is. This is practice. Like, it's good that this show is getting out there and everything like that, but like what we're doing right now is only training for like what's ahead of us. Like, think of it that way, and that's kind of like a cool thing to think about. But I mean, honestly, like, we are just in practice stage right now. So this is practice for like what you're going to be doing in your physical communities too, by like engaging in some of the conversation in a phone call with us. It's going to help you practice expressing some of your ideas, and then you're going to be able to like do it better when you're like in real life with a person and having those conversations. So take part in the practice, do your job, train, work out, do your meditation. Like, this is serious stuff, guys. Like, you got to be serious. Like, if you're into this whole consciousness thing, like, you got to drop like the selfish attitude, and you really got to commit to like some of the healthy lifestyles, and really like get the most out of like these energies that are around you, so you can like utilize them for the sake of others, because like it's happening, man. Like, it is just like the eschaton, I swear.
So, like, one of the things that I know from working with PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, is, media training is so important, and having these discussions. So if it's hard for you to wrap your head around some of the bigger topics, come on the air and have the discussion, because it's easier to have a discussion with people who somewhat understand what you might be experiencing or going through or engaging in, and then you can formulate your discussions and take it back out. We recently had this lady come in our shop because her son was talking about ascension, and she's coming through a Christian filter, and her son's like at the kitchen table talking about ascension and how everyone's needs to be ready for the 2012 shift, and so she had no idea what her kid was talking about, so she came in so that we could explain it to her, but he also came back in so that he could explain it better, because sometimes we have these really great ideas and we want everyone to come along with us, but we may not be able to relate it to those around us through a filter so they can understand. And it's through having conversation with others who are doing the work that you can develop those ideas. You can develop how you relate to the ideas, and then you can take it back out in a way that is relatable. Because remember, we don't want to like push people away from us. We want to have conversations, even tough conversations, even discussions that are more of a debate than discussion. But debate can be great because it allows you to formulate a new idea. It causes you, even as someone who's bringing an idea to the table, to solidify yourself in the things that you're connecting into. And if someone else brings questions about the things you're engaging in, take those on. Remember, it's not that you're wrong, but I like when people question me on the things that I'm doing, because it allows me to reconnect into that stuff. It allows me to solidify myself in my own direction. So things like the motherships that are floating around in space right now, which is getting a lot of discussion, everywhere, I think.
That's that's the thing. There's so many things we can talk about, guys, but we only have 10 minutes left in the show, give or take 9. So, and one thing that I just wanted to tie into, because it's something I wanted to mention when Casper was on the show, just in the sense of like science and all that, like even in the sense of biologically, if you want to help make sense of like some of this energy, and this is something that personally, like, I'm really following, and I'm really trying to stay dedicated to right now. And we've talked about it a bit on the show before, is this idea cultivating male sexual energy, because like sexual energy is like the like right up there. It's like the strongest energy like within our bodies. So I mean, for the talking from the perspective of a male, because like being a male, I have the genitalia that goes along with it. There's the whole idea that like the testicles like have within it like the seminal fluid, and like that seminal fluid like is like the essence. Like a lot of mystics talk about that. Like it's such a potent thing, and the whole idea is that like those testicles, like that fluid can be transmutated, and it's something that is directly connected to our spine. So think about it this way: biologically, the fluid from our testes like travels up through our spine, which connects directly to our brain, which like directly correlates to like the electricity sort of like currency like happening within our brain. So if this is again just a quick practical tip, if you want to get more out of your meditation, if you want to like experience some of like the actual like the energy that's around us in a higher sense, in a more sensitive way, one of the things is to be very mindful of how you're spilling your seeds, so to speak, and even to ideally not do it unless it's like for like the purpose of like sexual intercourse or what have you, because to do it by yourself can be looked at as a very selfish way, in a very selfish thing, because it's putting you in touch with like that moment of bliss. Like when you talk about like all these like higher dimensional realities and stuff like that, like the moment when we're having like an orgasm, like for that's actually like putting us in touch with like these higher reality energies, and that's why it feels like so amazing. Like that's why like for a lot of people like that, like they think that like sex is the reason for life, because the orgasm feels so amazing and it's this like touch of bliss. But there's like more where that energy came from. But one of the ways to get to that is to like hold on to the seed and to cultivate it, and to not give into like this momentaneous sensation of the orgasm, only to like be rewarded with an even crazier experience. So like think about like you're walking down a hallway and you see like a piece of candy on the floor, and you're just like, oh, a piece of candy, I'm gonna eat that, and then you eat it, and then you like go home, and that candy is like the orgasm. But if you say, no, I'm not going to eat that candy, and then you like walk a little bit further down the hallway, around that corner is like a pile of candy that you never even knew was there, unless you choose not to like eat that first bit of candy. So that's something that I really just wanted to pop in here before the show ends, because again, practicality-wise, guys, if you're serious about all this stuff, I challenge you to do that. I challenge you to develop the willpower to say like, I'm going to try committing to that. I'm going to try committing to like not spilling my seed, and then just see where it goes, and you may find that after a short while it's almost like a curse has been lifted, is one of the ways of thinking about it, because a lot of it is habit. But once you can sort of change that habit through your own willpower, it's just going to become like less of a struggle, so to speak, and you're going to start understanding the benefits as to like why it's worth it. So
and then you won't have hairy palms or go blind. So
that's exactly right. Scientifically proven. Yeah.
Scientifically proven. So the idea too is allow yourself to develop a practice of not going into those places. Don't let the desire drive the action. Because when you look at things like, there's some areas within magical work where it's sex magic, it's intentional use of sex force to gain specific outcomes. So you're using it as a directive versus using it just to use it. And the tantrikas, those who engage in the tantric practice, Bhagavan Das in his book I'm Here Now Are You really talks about engaging this as a yogic practice, where the actual yogis will at the moment of orgasm pull the seed back into the body. So which requires probably a lot of work. I don't know if anyone out there is at that level. If you are, we'll have you as a guest on the show so you can tell us how. But take your practice further. I'm doing a fast right now. I'm engaging in allowing myself not to have certain foods. Fast from things like Facebook. Fast from things you feel you can't do without, and using a fast in that manner as well to not engage in orgasmic activity will help you to regain power over things that may have power over you. And that's even goes beyond this whole spiritual thing, is so much around us takes our power away, and we got to pull that stuff back in so that we can engage ourselves fully in this experience.
Yeah, if you can not conquer the internal obstacles, how do you plan to conquer the external obstacles? Like, it's so much of it does begin within ourselves, guys. And just a little chat I'm observing within the chat room, like in terms of like this whole sexual energy, this tantra and stuff like that. Quick little fact, many of you may not even be aware of this, but the orgasm and the ejaculation are actually two different things. So for a male, it's possible to have an orgasm without ejaculating, and that's actually like part of within some of the practices related to tantra, is this idea of like how to separate the two, because it's actually like a muscle reflex that's causing the ejaculation. So it totally comes down to like your awareness within your own brain and sensitivity to those muscles, and doing a lot of Kegels and stuff. So, but yeah, like that's. It's totally that's the practical side of it, and for those of you who've heard the term tantra, you often hear like tantric sex and stuff like that. Like, that's just the start of it. They say like, okay, like if you want to experience like these higher dimensional states of energy and experience, step one is to approach like it from the tantric aspect of like holding on to the seed. But like beyond that, like it gets all into like a lot of like the meditative practices that you commonly see in other mystic teachings. So,
right.
What's our time at right now, Mike?
We're at the last.
I know I'm about to run out of time. Oh my God.
This is it. So real quick, I just want to announce the next show we're having, because this is pretty exciting. We have the Psychic and the Witch here on this channel that happens Mondays, and we have a really special guest coming on, Teo Bishop, who just recently came out as famous. His famous name was Matt Morris, and you know, when you have Justin Timberlake as your backup singer, you know you're doing something right. You know, so this guy has made a new integration of coming into his spirituality, but bringing back these old parts of himself. You know, he wrote Miss Independent for Kelly Clarkson, and his dad actually wrote Wind Beneath My Wings. So this is someone who comes from a very musical background. So we'll be talking about his musical experience and in the process of integration. So those of you who may not feel integrated, bring in spirituality and all parts of yourself back into one. So that's 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday night. So we have 1 minute left.
All right, so yeah, and then obviously next Saturday we will be here again with another episode of Paradigm Shift, and I do know I'm working on setting up some guests from the future shows, and I got some really cool ones ahead of us, and one of them is going to be a buddy of mine, E.A. Coetting, and he's crazy into like actual magic, like straight up like magic. So you guys are definitely going to be able to get a lot out of that show. E.A. Coetting, like type in E.A. and then K-O-E-T, Coet. I-N-G, yes, Coetting. It's kind of a weird name. But check out his stuff in the meantime, guys. I'll post a link in the show notes and stuff. But yeah, guys, if you haven't already, join the Facebook page at Paradigm Shift, or facebook.com/Paradigm Shift Radio, and also check out facebook.com/Paradigm Shift Central, and check out ParadigmShiftLondon.com. And also, if you're looking to donate, go to ParadigmShiftLondon.com and /donate, because this is a big show and we want to make it even bigger, and it helps and it begins with you guys. So thank you again for listening.
Thank you. Namaste, everyone. You're all loved. You're all beautiful. You're all divine beings. Have a good night, and thank you for joining us.
See you in the future.